Hello and welcome to Left Coast Live. It is Monday, June 9th, 2025. I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, joined by a special guest tonight instead of Stat Pat, Stateless Patriot, who will be joining us later. For now, we have the wonderful Marcy Winograd of Southern California with a ton of experience that I will let her talk about in the near future. But I know Code Pink is the thing that you're probably the most proud of right now. But you've run for Congress, and what else have you done? I was reading your bio actually not too long ago, and I sent it to my
Well,
thing.
Dieter, first,
The Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party. That was the thing I was trying to think of. That's a big deal. So you have been politically active for a very long time. Why don't you tell us the latest in what's going on with this insanity? Is this like it was what's going on right now in America like anything you've seen in your entire history of activism?
Dieter, first of all, I want to thank you so much for inviting me on
Yeah.
Left Coast Live. It's
Yeah.
a real pleasure and honor to be with you. And just to
Thank
fill
you.
in the blanks on my bio, I
Yeah.
have been an organizer with Code Pink, a volunteer organizer, since 2020, when I was soon after being a Bernie delegate, a 2020 Bernie delegate when he ran for president. I also am active in my union, United Teachers of Los Angeles, though I live in Santa Barbara on the Central Coast. I am still very active in UTLA and a voting member of their governing body called the House of Representatives. As an organizer with Code Pink, I have coordinated a World Court team. Most of the activists are now in New York, where the United Nations is based. But the purpose of the team is to pressure the countries of the world, including the United States, of course, to stop facilitating this horrific genocide in Gaza. I call it the U.S.-Israel genocide in Gaza. In addition, in California, I'm active in Jewish Voice for Peace. I'm a volunteer member of the California Legislative Team for Jewish Voice for Peace Action, which is the sister organization to Jewish Voice for Peace. And we are actively campaigning against a bill, which we can talk about later on.
Yeah, definitely.
So, on the Central Coast, I launched the Central Coast Anti-War Coalition. I have a co-chair, a wonderful co-chair, Carolyn Kruger, up in Morro Bay. So we cover a lot of territory. This is the congressional district represented by Salud Carbajal, who's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. And in that capacity, I have been encouraging people to hit the streets to protest wars, military interventions, this burdensome military budget. We're facing a near $1 trillion. Yes, $1 trillion. And of course, to call for an end to this war between Russia and Ukraine, and to push for an end to the genocide in Gaza. So that's what I've been up to in terms of what's going on right now in Los Angeles with the ICE raids. Yeah. I'm also active on the Central Coast. I signed up for the alerts to look out for ICE in our neighborhoods, to videotape whatever we see, and to alert people in the community if we see somebody, a member of ICE. And I was just in LA last weekend watching everything. Of course, I was not there. I was not in Paramount. I was not in Koreatown, where I heard there were also raids. But watching all of it, I'm on numerous Signal chats and just horrified at the overreach of the Trump administration. Overreach is putting it mildly. Really, we're looking at totalitarianism.
Fascism, yeah. I mean, it's just not. I mean, have you ever heard of Godwin's Law?
Tell me.
So I didn't know what it meant, but my co-host, Stateless Patriot, who I think is watching right now or listening on his ride home, it's this idea that every conversation about politics ends up having some sort of Nazi comparison. And, so I am a little aggressive, as you can tell at the outset. I'm an East Coaster. I'm from the I-95 Northeast Corridor. And, I wanted to start calling them white trash Nazis. Now, a guest that I've got next week is coming in, and she was like, talk to me out of it. She's like, no, that's too aggressive. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably too aggressive. And anytime you invoke the Nazi comparison, it just invites the dismiss. Oh, it's not that bad. But I was thinking that, WTF doesn't stand for what you think it does anymore. WTF from now on stands for white trash fascism. Incredible, right? I mean, I think it's time to call it what it is. Like, it's gangster shit, and it needs a label. And no one on the left okay. This is a question for you. Everyone's clamoring for the establishment Democrats, the Democrats in power to fight, right? Everyone, we want to fight. We all instead of complain about what we can't do. So what does fighting mean? Because to me, fighting means saying things like WTF stands for white trash fascist from now on. Like, that sounds like fighting to me.
Well, I did see Representative Norma Torres of the LA area on Instagram saying F the Trump administration, or F ICE.
Good. There you go.
I think those are fighting words. Yeah, I did see
Nice.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Jimmy Gomez, another representative of the LA area, and Rivas, Congresswoman Rivas, I think, outside the federal detention center, the Roybal Detention Center, over the weekend, demanding entrance and then being tear gassed and talking about it on Instagram. So those are spirited confrontations, and I fully support that. And I support the communities of South and East LA that are mobilizing to say, you cannot come into this barber shop and kidnap a barber. We will not stand for it. Now, we know that Trump is he says he's sending in the National Guard, 2,000 members. A lot of these people probably signed up for the National Guard so that they could become citizens. Ironic. And also he said he's deploying 300 Marines. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like between 500 and 700 Marines are going to go into LA like tonight.
Yeah. So, I mean, he wants to incite violence.
He wants the public theater of the whole thing.
I think he wants to say, hey, look what's happening here. It could happen in your neighborhood. You better cooperate. So it's an intimidation. Yeah. I also think to some degree, it's distraction from the biggest heist we've ever seen in terms of the transfer of wealth. Bill. Yeah, exactly. The transfer of wealth from working people to the billionaire class, the oligarchs of the United States.
Yeah, for those of you watching who don't know, the Big Beautiful Bill is just the most recent in a long history of examples of the GOP prioritizing three things, which is my Dieter fourth trichotomy, which is tax cuts for corporations and wealth and one percenters, military spending, and politicization of our courts according to right-wing fundamentalist Christian values. And one of those includes xenophobia, anti-immigrant sentiment. I can include that in the third bit. So those are the big three for the GOP for the last 45 years. So anybody who studied their history has known that this was coming. This was just a net result. We talk about it on the last week, how people who have studied political history, not necessarily political science, just political history, just what has happened in the past, understand that baby boomer conservatism, as it was conceived under Reagan, was always going to devolve into what we now see as Trump fascism, right? It's if it were allowed to do so, and it has been allowed to do so. Here we are.
Well, that's an interesting, a provocative assertion, because a lot of people think if only we had elected Kamala Harris, we would have avoided all of this. But, meanwhile, we were deeply entrenched in the slaughter in Gaza, and we have not seen slashes of the military budget. We've seen continuous thievery, really, a robbery of the working Americans to fund an ever expanding military budget, nearly, I think, $900 billion now. Mm-hmm. You counted the Veterans Administration to be over $1 trillion. So, and I've often said, Dieter, is it possible to continuously murder, massacre, oppress, confine, restrict, imprison, assassinate people in other countries and not bring that back home?
Yeah, exactly. At some point, you're going to get retribution.
Well, you certainly have built the surveillance state, and Trump is making sure that we expand that as well. And a friend asked me, Marcy, can you explain the connection between the ICE raids and Gaza? You know, and so I gave that some thought. And here's my analysis, and I'd love to hear yours, Dieter. So if you talk about Gaza and ICE, I think you have to talk about what is the overarching goal, right? And so I think for the Trump administration, for Trump and for his MAGA base, the overarching goal is a white Christian nation.
Yes.
If you look at Israel, what's the overarching goal with this ethnic extermination in Gaza and terrorizing the West Bank? The overarching goal is an ethno-nationalist state.
Yes.
Okay. So for some on the right, Israel is a model. It's a model for ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
So that's one connection. Another connection would be that Israel uses Palestine as a laboratory. I mean, Anthony Lowenstein has written about this. Let's give him credit. He's written the Palestine Laboratory, and he talks about the experimentation of weapons and surveillance systems in Palestine that can then be exported to other countries around the world.
Technology is developed, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how technologies develop. We like got Velcro out of going to the moon, like solving these random problems. And yeah, in this case, wow, a laboratory. I've never heard about that comparison before, but it sounds, right on the money.
So if you read about it, if you read about this laboratory in Palestine, you'll read about all the cameras that they have, all the checkpoints they have in the West Bank. I don't know about Gaza. I can only imagine. And when you look at what Trump is doing and what has preceded him in terms of increasing surveillance in this country, all these Starlink satellites that are sent up into space. Yeah, some of them these are Elon Musk, right? Some of them are to connect people in remote areas of the world to the internet, but a lot of them are for surveillance. Elon Musk,
I believe it.
He's got the Starlink satellite cornered, and he has contracts with U.S. intelligence. Not only that, but you look at Palantir. Now, that's a surveillance company. That's a tech company out of Silicon Valley, started by Peter Thiel, big Trump supporter. He was credited with molding Vance, our vice president, that he was a protege of Thiel's.
Yes, techno-fascism, yes.
Yeah. And so Palantir has hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts for surveillance, and they just got a new one, a $30 million contract to basically raid our social security system and meld it with the data that's in our social security system, all of our social security numbers, with the IRS. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with a young person, and they said, well, what's in it for these extremists if you surveil everybody and you abduct or deport all of these people who are picking our fruit, taking care of older people? Why, what's in it for them? And I said, well, I don't know if they're thinking that far. I think they're racist again. It goes back to wanting a white supremacist country. And also, they're really just concerned about the wealth transfer. That's what they want. So they'll go along with the rest of it. But in terms of Palantir has an office in Israel. It has contracts with the Israeli military for surveillance, for, I believe, for AI. And it has contracts here with our government for surveillance. So if you think about Israel's laboratory in Palestine, the cameras, the checkpoints, the biometric evaluations, what would it look like if we're in this country? If we had checkpoints, if we had cameras everywhere, if we were looking around.
We might be on the horizon there with that.
It might be. Now, I just read today that Trump wants to find a company. I don't know why it's hard to find a company. You got Palantir. He wants to find a company that can screen everybody's social media. So that would be screening us. If you say anything against Trump or ICE or anything like that, then you're going to go into some sort of registry.
So there's a famous YouTuber by the name of Hassan Piker. My audience and anyone watching would know who he is. And he got detained at immigration coming back from, I believe, Portugal or somewhere in Western Europe. And yeah, they knew him from his YouTube channel because he's super progressive and hates conservatism. My co-host has weighed in since we've been talking. Actually, two things. So this is, yes, much of what is happening in LA is because of the unhinged racism of Stephen Miller. Yes. Xenophobia, just just be specific. It's a specific form of racism, but yes, absolutely. This is Stephen Miller's doing, the big Steves, right? Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon. You want to understand the MAGA infrastructure, just research those guys, and you'll have 90% of the knowledge you need to understand MAGA. It's not complicated. It's like, so what I do is, from a political marketing perspective, I try to repackage what you just said. And like, one of the ways I would do that would be to call it Confederate Christian nationalism, not just call it Christian nationalism, because that makes it sound like all Christians are bad. But if you called it Confederate Christian nationalism, now, I mean, like, that's the thing. Marketing plays off our established cultural cornerstones, right? And so that's why, for example, I say that politics is Star Wars, policy is Star Trek, and political marketing is Jurassic Park, because you got to kill the dinosaurs. And the dinosaurs that you got to kill are Reagan and Clinton. And we got to remind everybody of W, because a lot of what Trump is doing right now was enabled actually under W post 9/11. And the executive branch got a lot of new power after that. Now, it's not as big of a deal as the ultimate was, the ruling by the Supreme Court, when Biden was in office, that the president is immune basically to prosecution. Even though we have the impeachment process, and it's like the whole premise of our structure of government. See, the thing is, if you study the framers themselves and like and you're like, okay, they were likely educated about this. For example, the separation of church and state. There were 300 years of religious wars in Western Europe leading up to the founding of America. Do you think that all those educated guys who were trying to find, wealthy, yes, but also educated men who were trying to start a new country, you think they're going to bring all that religious cultural baggage across the Atlantic with them? Absolutely not. Like, just think about it logically. And so, yeah, to get to where the MAGA is now, like, they don't actually expect their life to get better, or if they do, that's a bonus. What they want is the nacho cheese fries of just watching somebody else hurt. They want the cruelty. This goes back, this is a tradition in our country that goes all the way back to lynching in the Deep South, where they would take dates. Guys like me would grab a date and say, hey, do you want to go to the lynching this Saturday night in the forest? And they would do that. And that was like an accepted form of social interaction. I studied this in college. Only reason I know this is because I had a professor who was just super enlightened and made sure that guys like me knew these stories. And that, it really is the tragedy of Americans present, is that it's all a result of just the population not knowing its history and not being able to distinguish between what I talk with StatPat about, the difference between public memory and history. Because if you just study our history, then you can go back to the FDR New Deal paradigm and say, okay, wait a second, that was working pretty well. Like, what's a version of that makes sense today? But people don't go back that far. All they go back as far as Reagan. And they think that's all they need to know is Reagan to the present day. And that if they even go back that far, a lot of Gen Z, they didn't live through W, so they don't remember how miserable W is. I theorize that because of 9/11 and the way that we live through W, I think that millennials will go down as the most empathetic generation and the generation that kind of woke up. And in terms of generational demographics, they're the only ones trending left.
Yes, certainly the youth is our hope. Our hope, absolutely, for the future. I mean, you look at all of the activism on college campuses to support Palestine, and that gives me hope, right? And of course, that's a threat to those who want a Christian, or Confederate, as you would say, a Confederate Christian nation. That gets in the way. And so, again, you have Palantir helping the United States government, Homeland Security, identify these immigrants who are pro-Palestinian and kidnap them. detain them,
Yes.
right?
And that's
Now,
what they're going to use. It's like Gestapo. They're going to make ICE is now the Gestapo for the White House. It feels
and
like.
I'm not even sure if some of these people are ICE, right? Some of these
Right.
masked guys in LA,
Right.
who knows who they are?
Right.
Shattering windows. I I am glad to see our governor, Gavin Newsom. I'm surprised and glad that he's saying on social media maybe we should stop paying our taxes to the federal government. He's in support. Well, they just filed, I think today, a lawsuit against the Trump administration for seizing control of the National Guard and deploying them in California. That's a very rare occurrence for the federal government to do that. California is supposed to control the Guard. So
it's the first time in 60 years. It's the first time in 60 years the president has activated the National Guard without the request of the state's governor. First time since LBJ, I think, was the last one to do it.
And at Code Pink, I think I mentioned earlier that I coordinate the Drop the ADL campaign. The ADL is the Anti-Defamation League, and I think we are at an interesting juncture here where we see the federal government and our state government going the extra mile to conflate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism, right? To conflate criticism of Israel's foundational policies, the expulsion of almost 1 million Palestinians, the burning to the ground of their villages, erasure of their street names. If you say that's racist, you might be accused of anti-Semitism. And so if we can, I would love to talk a little bit about the California Israel lobby.
Yes, let's put a pin in that for a second, though, because my co-host weighed in again, and I want to make sure we got to him. LA mayor and police chief are blaming ICE for the escalations, plus denouncing the military deployment. Good, yeah. I knew Karen Bass was going to step up, and we'll wrap up the LA stuff, and then we'll get into your ADL for sure material. But I think Newsom, it's the playbook for Newsom is pretty obvious. He actually would benefit most from getting arrested by Trump. That would probably make Gavin Newsom the next president of the United States if Trump were to arrest him. And I think Trump's team has some, like probably Steve Bannon, for example, who's probably the smartest guy in the room in Trump's MAGA team, knows that. So they're not going to go arrest Gavin. Or if they do, they're really stupid. They're just stupid. They're biting the bait. That's what he wants. He wants to look like the persecuted hero. And I mean, I don't blame him. If I were in his shoes and someone was bullying me and I was a governor of the 7th or 5th largest economy in the world, like, kiss my boots, man. Like, the taxes that I contribute to me and my people contribute to the federal government, dwarf everywhere else. So show some respect. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The limits of our power are definitely going to be tested. And
in terms of Mayor Bass, I would just say that I would hope that she would get the LAPD under control, because from what I've seen on social media, they're right in there, many of them, intimidating, bullying, facilitating ICE. Even though the LAPD's chief has said we will not do that, it certainly looks that way when you look at Instagram.
Yeah, that's what ultimately I think will be the currency of the next 2 elections is this carnage. I mean, and we'll see if the DNC has the guts to stick it in the face of the American public. Hey, remember this? Remember how ugly it was? Like, you want to go back to that ever? And that's my primary concern, is that MAGA is going to be just a verdict on the alt-right, not the entire right, But let's get into one of your core areas of expertise, the Israel lobby, really. I mean, when I think Israel, Gaza, when I think Israel, Palestine, I think, why are we protecting them? What is going on? It really just comes down to AIPAC and how they are the best lobby at playing both sides. And because they play both sides so well, I mean, they're kind of they're more untouchable than the NRA by a long shot.
At this point, yes. And in California, we have JPAC, which rhymes with APAC, and JPAC
Yeah.
is the Jewish Public Affairs Council. I think it's council, and they are raising money for their candidates who are pro-Israel. I would say pro-genocide at this point,
Right.
and that's really disturbing. I sent you some links. I don't know if you can
Yes.
bring any of
I can
those
bring them
up.
up. Yes.
We can look at a few things. The Legislative
Which
Jewish
one?
Caucus, and
Mhm.
let's just be clear, I am Jewish.
Okay.
I sang in my brother's bar mitzvah. I went to
My
Israel in my
my
youth.
wife is Jewish. My wife is Jewish. She did
Okay,
yeah, she birthright as well,
but,
yeah.
but I'm also, as I mentioned, very active in the legislative committee on the legislative committee of Jewish Voice for Peace Action. I'm an anti-Zionist. So I do not subscribe to Israel as the Jewish state or the state that represents Jews by any means. I want no association with their crimes against humanity. So, but in California, we have the Legislative Jewish Caucus, and I think you may have a link to that
Which
we
one
can
is it?
look at. I think it's the first one. Does it say
Legislative
legislative?
Jewish Caucus.
Yes.
Yeah,
If
yeah, I
we
got it.
click
Yep.
on that, we can see who's in it and what's going on with this caucus. I believe they have 18 or 19 members. They've been around for at least a decade. And right now, there we are. So the chairs. Now, if you look at that little box below the
Yeah.
big picture, you'll
Scott
see
Weiner.
the co-chair, Scott Weiner. He is a state senator from San Francisco. He represents San Francisco. And next to him is Jesse Gabriel of the San Fernando Valley, Encino. Next to him, you have, they are the main co-chairs. And then you have Dawn Addis. She's a representative from Morro Bay in San Luis Obispo County. And then Josh Becker, he's up north in Atherton. But the primary movers and shakers are the co-chairs, Weiner and Gabriel. And they also happen to chair the budget committee in the Assembly and the state Senate. So they have
a lot of power.
A lot of influence, yeah. And others are fearful of them. And then as you scroll down, you can see other members. Many of them are from the Southern California area, but not all. And they go to Israel and they invite others to go to Israel. And they are primarily pushing out an agenda that looks like this. 1, expanded Holocaust education in California schools. I'm a retired public school teacher. I taught 8th grade English. We read The Diary of a Young Girl, the story of Anne Frank. We spent a lot of time on that. And then we also discussed, the timeline of the Holocaust, resistance, the Warsaw Ghetto. In 10th grade, now 10th grade standards they do address the Holocaust, post-World War II nationalism, the impact, the establishment of the State of Israel, or what you might call the imposition of the State of Israel. Right. The Holocaust, and even that term, I'm a little uneasy with because there are numerous Holocausts, right?
Yes.
Throughout history. There's not just one, the Holocaust. But this Legislative Jewish Caucus wants to expand Holocaust education and funnel more state money into it. I'll get back to that in a minute. So that's the first part of their agenda. And the second part of their agenda is to silence critics of Israel.
Okay. Of course.
By conflating that criticism with anti-Semitism and establishing a statewide anti-Semitism czar to police the classrooms. So if we talk about the first agenda item, expansion of Holocaust education, we're talking about the establishment of a collaborative. This has been signed into law, signed by the governor after the legislature passed it, a collaborative of 14 organizations, most of them Holocaust-centered. And this is under the banner of Holocaust and Genocide Education, which in short is HGE. Okay, so there are 14 members, and some of them represent Guatemala, I think, Rwanda, Cambodia, Armenia, but most of them are Holocaust-centered, and at least 5 are Zionist. And you might say, what does that mean? Well, the soft definition would be they believe in the right of Jewish self-determination to have a homeland in biblical Palestine, now Israel. My definition of Zionism is support for the ethnic extermination of Palestinians, to impose a Jewish supremacist state in Palestine.
Yeah,
And
and
we
I
can
would I would just define it as the state of Israel taking over all of Palestine. That's Zionism to me. It's like it just really is about land. It really just is about land, and they feel entitled to that land, just like they feel entitled to. And there was a great atheist, I forget his name, but he said that the idea of Israel in the first place was stupid. Why would you put a Jewish ethno state on Arab land? That was
yeah.
following World War II. That in and of itself, the idea was dumb.
Why would anyone think that this would be a refuge for the Jews?
Right.
Well, there would be any sense of safety there. It just doesn't make any sense at all. That now to talk about Holocaust education, I'd love to bring up one of the links I sent you.
Yes. What else?
I believe it says, if you scroll down, it says handheld videos, Henry Stern,
Yes.
something to that effect.
First one.
Okay. So yeah, let's take a look at that. Now, in terms of the expansion of Holocaust education, you might say, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with it? Okay. So as I mentioned, we already have Holocaust education. The expansion, what is the point? The point is to exceptionalize Jewish pain and trauma, of course. I am a
Is this what you wanted?
descendant. Yes. So we can
This is
stop
what
right
you
there.
wanted?
Let's bring her back
Okay.
up. You can bring up the woman. That was Henry Stern. We'll visit him in a minute. But the point is to lay the
This bill
foundation
is
for
part of a broader
justifying.
effort to police U.S.
Oh,
education.
can we stop
Sorry about
echoing
that.
Okay. So the point of expanding Holocaust education is to paint Jews as forever victims
Yes.
and who must have this Jewish state, no matter what the cost, and even to justify or normalize the crimes of the state of Israel, because
Yeah.
we must protect Jews who were persecuted in the Holocaust and Russia's pogroms, etc. Now, what we're looking at is a hearing in the Senate Appropriations Committee on this bill, SB 472. If it's SB, it's a Senate bill. And what this bill would do is it would establish the pipelines to funnel more state money, millions of dollars of state money, theoretically, through these pipelines to the offices of the county offices of education. So each county has one of these. I think there are 58 offices. And then these offices would in turn offer teacher training, professional development to all their districts in Holocaust and genocide education. And when they do that, what they're doing is they're platforming the Anti-Defamation League. We can talk about more about that in a minute. But the ADL, they conflate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. They supported the abduction of Khalil, a Palestinian immigrant protester, right? They now say on their website that they're no longer interested in anti-bias education. Their focus is anti-Semitism. And what they're pushing for is the adoption on a national level, but if they can't get that on the state or on the local level, the adoption of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, it's called the IRA, Definition and Examples of Anti-Semitism. And these examples, there are 11, 6 of which center Israel. And for example, if you say Israel's a racist state, you're anti-Semitic. If you say Israel, Jews do not have the right to colonize, but they wouldn't use that word, whatever, Israel, you're anti-Semitic. So that's the key here. This bill is to eventually platform the Anti-Defamation League in every classroom. Now, the woman that we're looking at, she is a member of Jewish Voice for Peace Action, as is the man next to her, and she testified at the hearing. So let's hear what she has to say.
Effort to police U.S. education, echoing Trump-era tactics to censor teachers. SB 472's reporting requirements aim to prevent discussions about the Nakba and the ongoing genocide in Gaza. The bill's drafters have previously taken actions to erase Palestinian voices and now propose outsourcing curriculum development to a grant program that risks weaving Zionist ideology into the curriculum. We must teach history in its full truth, not politicized or weaponized. Our shared humanity depends on it. Thank you.
So that was Jewish Voice for Peace. Now, if we scroll down on that link, we scroll down on the page, you will see another video. Now, what is this? This is a video taken by a woman named Ava Chrysanth, and she is a grassroots investigative journalist. She has a Substack column called Marin County Confidential, and she decided to follow this story and other stories revolving around the influence of the Israel caucus in California and post on Substack. So she followed out the senator who is the principal author of SB 472 to expand Holocaust education to ask him some questions. So let's listen to this conversation.
Senator Limon will be presenting SB 584. Senator Limon, you may begin when you are ready.
Thanks for following up.
Senator Stern.
I'm not really interested in talking to you.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you a quick question, if it was possible.
I'm not interested.
Senator Stern, I just wanted to ask if you deny that there's currently a genocide occurring.
Yes, I do deny that.
You deny that there's a genocide occurring?
I think you should go. I think you should go back to school and do your homework. You should probably go back to K-12 and learn about things. And I'm sorry that you feel this way.
Okay.
Really.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of my feeling. It's a matter at the International Court of Justice. It's a matter of arrest warrants. It's a matter of arrest warrants, Senator Stern. There are arrest warrants. There are arrest warrants for Netanyahu. There are arrest warrants. There are arrest warrants for Yoav Gallant and Benjamin Netanyahu, because there's a Holocaust happening right now in Gaza. Senator Stern.
I'm okay. Don't worry about me.
Senator Stern.
They follow. Yeah, appreciate it.
So, Senator Stern,
Just,
I'd
you
like
gotta
to
be
get
careful
some
about
answers.
you gotta be careful about touching though. You gotta not
Yeah,
do
of course.
that. Okay, all right.
And Senator Stern, I didn't touch you. You did touch me, though. So, Senator Stern, I do have questions about why you're pushing this in the middle of a Holocaust in Gaza that is being enacted with U.S. taxpayer dollars by the State of Israel.
Yeah. Why are you teaching about the Holocaust?
Why are you
do want-
denying that there's a Holocaust in Gaza right now?
Why do we want to teach
Why are
about
you
the
denying that there's a Holocaust?
First of all, that's not the issue in this legislation.
Why isn't it? Because that is a genocide that Israel is conducting.
I understand you feel
right
that
now.
way. I understand you feel that way.
Well,
I do appreciate that.
South
you feel
Africa
that.
feels that
I
way.
know.
The global South feels
Sure.
that way.
Sure. I understand.
You understand?
I understand that they all have some misguided notions of what a genocide is, and that's why we're running this legislation to help teach people what a genocide is and what it really is not. And
Okay.
Okay.
So, playbook.
So-
It's a predictable playbook. I mean, they've been doing it for a while now. Do you want me to stay there? I can come back.
Well, we're going to visit another link in a minute, but I just
Okay.
want to clarify that Senator Stern, he represents Thousand Oaks, Newbury Park, that area.
Okay.
And I would urge anyone who's listening, watching this, to, if you live in California, find out wherever you live, find out who represents you in your state
Yeah.
legislature, right? Because
Right.
there's a lot of confusion. People think, oh, my federal No, it's not your House representative. It's not your U.S. Senate. It's your own state legislature.
House. Yeah.
Right, State House. So, so kudos to Ava for following up on that. And then later we won't show all the videos, but the Jewish Voice for Peace activist came out and they had a whole conversation with him, and it continued. And he did want to engage. At first he didn't, but he did want to engage. That bill right now is still, as I understand it, in the State Senate Appropriations Committee in California. Part of the bill was to require these county offices of education to submit annual reports to the state legislature on their Holocaust education, on what they were doing. And they said, this is burdensome and unnecessary. No.
Right.
Right. And so they're working out those details.
Yeah, it just never ends. And the playbook is so old and tired. I mean, I talk about it's a very crude form of analysis, but it's like how a MAGA would think about it. Since I was a kid watching NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, my earliest news memory was the Berlin Wall falling in '89, but I started really paying attention to politics in '92 with Clinton. But ever since I started watching the news when I was a kid, like 5 years old is the earliest memories, Israel was in the news at least a few times a year for going to war with someone or someone going to war with them. It was always Israel. It was always the Middle East. This time it's Syria. This time it's Saudi Arabia. This time it's Iran. And I just since before 9/11, right? Before 9/11 established, the concept of anti-American, like fundamentalist, Muslim extremism as kind of the vehicle for anti-American sentiment. And that talk about political marketing. Somehow the American public was convinced that like our anchor in the Middle East culturally is Israel. Somehow that they were convinced. It's like, we need them. We really need them. It's like, why? What did they contribute? But yeah, I mean, you see when they walk away, I mean, like, at least that guy had a try. Like, whenever you see a professionally trained politician like that actually talk to the camera, it's because they think they're smart enough to like handle the moment. And that guy seems like pretty well trained. But I mean, some big time A-list political figure needs to step up and do it. That's not Bernie. That's not AOC. But it's amazing to me how the Zionist media machine has infiltrated our media, and people are just living in denial about this genocide taking place. I mean, if anything, if I was coaching that woman who did the antagonizing, I would have just been like, keep it a little bit tighter and simpler of just like, do you acknowledge that this is a genocide? And then if he says, no, it's not a genocide, it's like, oh, really? And then have like data ready, have like, the number of children killed and so forth. But that's good guerrilla journalism. I like that.
Oh, I think it's incredible. Her follow-up questions and bringing in.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Kudos to her. Now, if we can, I'd like to show another video. So this other, well, first I'll just explain another bill. It's called AB 715. And I think I have a link to it there. AB 715. We can bring it up. This is now in the Senate, the state Senate in California. It has passed the Assembly. It passed the Assembly 68-0 with 11 not voting. Some of those 11 were opposed. It's very hard for lawmakers to oppose a bill that has emerged from the Legislative Jewish Caucus. It's almost, it can be done, and it has been done, and we have defeated their bills, but it's very difficult. So this bill is skeletal in some respects. We expect it to be heavily amended. The predecessor to this bill was AB 1468, and that bill would have dumbed down ethnic studies, basically restricted it to only discussing domestic issues. They don't want anyone talking about Palestine, nor do they want to talk about anything related to the history of the world, really, because how do you talk about the Japanese internment camps without talking about World War II, right? How do you talk about slavery without talking about the Atlantic slave trade? Anyway, there were a number of things in that bill that teachers found objectionable, and CTA, that's the California Teachers Association, the umbrella organization for unions in California, representing about 330,000 teachers, opposed that bill. So the co-authors, Don Addis and Rick Chavez Burr of the Hollywood area, they dumped it, and they took one of his old bills, gutted it, and put in this new language. It's called a gut and amend. The California Constitution requires legislators, when they introduce legislation, to introduce their bills at least 30 days before the first hearing on the bill. To get around that, what they do is they take an old bill. So this bill was initially about attorney discipline, and they have a number, it's been submitted, but they take all the language out and they just put in whatever they want. It's called the gut and amend. So this bill, what this bill would do is it would amend the California Education Code to change the definition of nationality to include religion and residency in a country with a dominant religion. In addition, what it would do is it would expand the prohibition on certain curriculum materials. In other words, currently, the California Department of Education has a practice of not adopting, they are not allowed to adopt any textbooks that could be the basis of an unlawful discrimination lawsuit, okay, or complaint. Nor are they allowed to adopt any supplementary recommended books, articles, that also might serve as the basis for a complaint, a Title VI civil rights complaint, or a complaint to the Department of Education in California saying that this is discriminatory. What this bill would do is say, okay, school boards, school districts, we will now hold you responsible if any teacher, LAUSD has 38,000 teachers. If any teacher introduces curriculum, a book, an article, a song, a paragraph that might upset someone, who would then file a complaint with the Department of Education, state, you will be held responsible. So you can imagine the chilling effect.
It's fear, yeah.
Right? Fear would ripple throughout the classrooms in the state of California.
Yes.
Now, that's what would go into effect. What this bill also includes is what they call intent language. So there's a whole section on what they intend to see in subsequent legislation. And one of the things they want to see is the establishment of an anti-Semitism coordinator for the entire state. I say a czar to police the classroom. I say a czar to say, you showed democracy now as seen in Gaza where people are starving. That's anti-Semitism.
No, but it's like all of those Confederate flag waving racists would they complain about African Americans complaining, but then here you've got Zionists complaining to heights of institutionalizing ignorance, and on a scale like a compliance officer or a coordinator, an anti-Semitism coordinator. Well, shouldn't we have an anti-racism coordinator first, or an anti-xenophobia coordinator first? Because those seem like much bigger problems to me.
I mean, here we are witnessing, people of color being abducted off the streets of Los Angeles, and yet we're going to exceptionalize, quote, Jewish safety. That is not serving anyone. It's racist, and it doesn't serve Jews, because I know Jewish parents who don't want to be singled out, considered in need of more protection than other vulnerable communities. So this bill has problems on a number of counts, but again, the assembly, it just flew out of the assembly.
Incredible.
On to the Senate. Yes. Now,
which one do you want me to do next?
What I want to do next is you should have a video of Code Pink, expel the ADL. No, not that one. Expel the ADL, I think it says, or drop the ADL. Code Pink,
expel the ADL.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Okay, so it's drop the Anti-Defamation League. It's a guide. Okay, we'll stop there. Hold on. So there's a wonderful woman. Her name is Nora Lester Murad, and she revived this campaign that was initially launched by Jewish Voice for Peace. And the campaign is drop the ADL from the schools, because ADL conflates anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism to silence dissent. And it's a private lobby group. They spent over $1 million last year pushing for adoption nationally of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance examples. And they have no place in our schools. And when we adopt their curriculum, we're outsourcing to this private group, and we platform them. In other words, we encourage students to report other students to the ADL if the student who's reporting perceives anti-Semitism. Can you imagine this? All right, let's scroll down. And here we have testimony that some of us delivered before the Los Angeles Unified School District, which has a number of links on their website to the ADL, and which has schools that incorporate their curriculum, whether it be No Place for Hate, that's one of their major pieces. The other is Echoes and Reflections. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And I don't know how we're doing on time. We can watch.
No, we're good. We're good. No, okay. We got plenty of time. Yeah.
Let's listen.
Smirlson.
Oops. Here we go.
Superintendent Smirlson, Superintendent Carvalho, and board members. I am Mark Witschke, a retired LAUSD social studies and English teacher, a taxpayer, and a concerned community member. I rise to draw attention to the district's egregious mistake in providing links on its websites to material from the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. The board should know that the ADL is a lobby group for the State of Israel masquerading as a civil rights organization. The ADL has an unabashed political agenda to support the genocidal actions of the rabid extremist Zionists who have taken control of the Israeli government. The Nation magazine has called the ADL the Israel's attack dog in the U.S. In 2020, more than 100 civil rights and community groups, including the Center for Constitutional Rights and the National Lawyers Guild, published an open letter warning that the ADL, quote, has a history and ongoing pattern of attacking social justice movements led by communities of color, queer people, immigrants, Muslims, Arabs, and other marginalized groups, while aligning itself with police, right-wing leaders, and perpetrators of state violence, unquote. Indeed, a visit to the ADL's website that the LAUSD links to reveals that the ADL distorts Jewish teachings, unjustly demonizes Palestinians and their supporters, and foments Islamophobia. Material provided by such a politically charged, racist, and hate-filled organization such as the ADL is but propaganda, not education, and has no place at LAUSD. I urge the board to remove the link and refrain from any future association or promotion of the ADL and any of its literature. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is John Krampner. I oppose the district website's link to the Anti-Defamation League's Echoes and Reflections curriculum. In addition to being a retired teacher of English as a second language in the adult division of LAUSD, I am also a Jew. Growing up in Brooklyn, I attended the Beth Elohim Synagogue in Park Slope. I was bar mitzvahed there in 1965. Over the last year and a half, I have watched in horror as Israel has engaged in a campaign of genocide against the Palestinians. The Anti-Defamation League does not speak for me, nor does it speak for the Jewish community. Its Echoes and Reflections curriculum echoes the party line of the right-wing extremists who now rule Israel, and it reflects a mindset of intolerance rather than defense of the Jews. As a Jew, I have experienced anti-Semitism. Opposing genocide is not anti-Semitic. Saying Palestinians are human beings with legitimate national aspirations is not anti-Semitic. Criticizing Zionism, an ideology controversial among Jews since its inception, is not anti-Semitic. Curricular material which implies otherwise is not educational, it is propaganda, and yes, it is defamatory. It does not belong in LAUSD. The ADL's curriculum twists and deforms my religious heritage into a cudgel that deprives other religious and ethnic communities of their basic rights as American citizens. Please do not use Echoes and Reflections or accept any curricular input from the hate mongers of the ADL.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Husseini. I'm the Vice
impressive.
President of Operations and Administration at the Muslim Public Affairs Council. Today, I represent the Muslim community, which is deeply concerned about the implications and effects of external influence on our K-12 schools. The primary focus of our schools should be to provide a balanced education that encourages critical thinking and a broad understanding of diverse perspectives. However, the involvement of third-party groups with specific political or ideological agendas risks skewing this balance, compromising our core educational mandates and influencing the academic freedoms that are the foundations of our institutions. We then mold young minds to fit a particular narrative rather than fostering an environment of learning and inquiry. The influence and fear-mongering eerily parallels dark moments in U.S. history, such as the Red Scare and the imposition of loyalty oaths within the UC system, where fear and discriminatory bias plagued academic integrity. Just as those actions and periods were reviewed with regret, this may also be our path if we continue to allow our schools to be swayed by such pressures. The American Muslim community has noted an alarming rise in Islamophobia within our schools, correlating with the influence of the ADL that conflates Zionism with anti-Semitism and vilifies American Muslims for Palestine. It is not just about preserving the integrity of our educational practices, but about protecting the future of our children and ensuring they receive an education that is free from hate. Let's keep the ADL and special interests out of our classrooms so we can educate and not indoctrinate. I look forward to our collective efforts to deliver educational excellence and promote critical thinking. Thank you so much.
Last video.
President Schmerelson, board member, Superintendent Carvalho, I'm Marcy Winograd. Great to be with you. Thank you for your commitment to our students' success. I'm a retired LAUSD English and government teacher, a voting member of the UTLA House of Representatives, a member of Jewish Voice for Peace, and the organizer for Code Pink's National Drop the ADL campaign. I'm here to ask you to sever your relationship with the Anti-Defamation League, a pro-Israel lobby group that spent $1 million last year on lobbying. The ADL's curriculum, Echoes and Reflections, I'm deep into it. I think it would be shocking if you looked at what they are teaching our students, and that is to conflate anti-Zionism, the rejection of political critique, the rejection of an ethno-nationalist Jewish state that privileges one ethnicity over another, with anti-Semitism, persecution, discrimination against Jews. My great-grandparents were murdered in a Nazi concentration camp. I say never again for anyone. I say we cannot weaponize the Holocaust to justify the occupation of Palestine, the genocide in Gaza. Right now, 2 million people being starved to death. We cannot indoctrinate our students into this. And please take a look at the ADL website, which now says we no longer focus on anti-bias training. We are now solely focused on Judaism, the Holocaust, and anti-Semitism. No, the ADL is focused on vilifying peace activists, on genocide denial, and on complicity. Take a look at their Twitter page with the Trump administration's persecution of peace activists. Thank you so much again for what you are doing for our students. I'm really, really grateful.
Oh, wow.
Okay, there
Who
you
was
go.
that last? Who was
Yeah,
that
who was
last
that
one?
woman?
Who was that last one? She was pretty good.
Not bad, right?
No, it was good.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you showed that to me because that's very
Yeah.
insightful. The indoctrination efforts are even happening in blue states and blue areas, and people don't even know what's
Absolutely.
happening. Yeah.
And we won't watch the videos again, but about 10 of us testified in Santa Barbara before the Santa Barbara School Board. And
Oh, did
no, yeah, because we don't want the ADL here either. And they just hired a new regional director for this area. So we can't fall asleep. Let's put it that way. And if we have time.
The ADL defended Elon's Nazi salute.
Right.
Good to know.
That's
Jesus.
right.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's really good to know. That's a nice little factoid there. You can stick in their face for the rest of the time.
Mm-hmm. And if we have time, I can show you what they're pushing out, what the ADL is
By all means.
pushing out into our classrooms. So there's a video. What does it mean to be a Jew?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see that one.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So in their Echoes and Reflections curriculum, most of it is about the Holocaust, but one of the units, the 11th unit, is on contemporary anti-Semitism. This is really the jewel for the Israel lobby, to brand contemporary anti-Semitism as criticism of Israel. And in this unit, they have a video, which we're about to see. What does it mean to be a Jew? And note, it's very slick. It's very well done. And that's frightening, right? I can see teachers teaching this, introducing it, and thinking that this is reflective of all Jews. This is how Jews think. No. So let's take a look and see how she interjects Zionism into this video.
What does it mean to be Jewish? Jewish identity revolves around feelings of religion, ethnicity, and peoplehood that are dynamic. What do I mean? Let me explain. According to biblical text, the Jewish story begins with Abraham, who about 4,000 years ago was the first to introduce the revolutionary concept of monotheism, a belief in one God without physical form, later also accepted by Christians and Muslims. Abraham's family became the leaders of 12 tribes, the early people of Israel. Famine struck, and they left their homeland, becoming slaves in Egypt. Moses led them out and received the 10 Commandments, foundational moral laws emphasizing respect, justice, and ethical behavior. The Jewish commitment to learning and education as part of our religious and cultural traditions started here. The people of Israel eventually returned to their homeland. Jerusalem and the temples they built there became their spiritual core. Invasions of other people led to a 2,000-year exile of most of the Jews. During the exile, Jews settled worldwide, adapting to local cultures. Without one country or one language to unite them, what made them a people? Well, this is exactly where the feelings of identity that I mentioned before come in. First, there's our common religion, which can be practiced in many different ways, written in the Torah, also known as the 5 books of Moses. Our common memory, history, customs, and heritage are also key. No matter where we live, we celebrate the same holidays and have many of the same traditions. Another thing that's kept us together as a people for so long is our connection to the land of our ancestors, Israel. While there has been a continuous Jewish presence in the land of Israel, the yearning to return to our biblical homeland has been the deep and emotional heart of Jewish life throughout the 2,000 years of exile. The connection of the Jews as indigenous people in the land of Israel, as well as their experience of anti-Semitism, led to the Zionist movement. At a time of rising nationalism in Europe in the 1800s, the Jews sought to establish their own homeland. As part of the process, they even revived the dead language of Hebrew. The Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were murdered, highlighted the urgency of creating a Jewish homeland. In 1948, the modern state of Israel was established. It became a home for Jewish refugees from post-war Europe, from Africa, and from Muslim countries that expelled Jews. For many Jews, no matter where they live or how religious they are, a strong aspect of their identity is their connection with the state of Israel, the only Jewish state in the whole world. Our love of learning and need at times to struggle to survive have made Jews innovators, thinking outside the box. Wherever we live throughout the world, Jews have contributed many breakthroughs in all sectors of society.
Jewish exceptionalism there for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Peter, I showed that to a group of activists before that testimony that we saw, in front of the LA Unified School District Board. And they were so angry watching that with the comments that she made about Israel being central to Judaism and Jewish life. They were so offended by that they said, we're going to be on the phone or we'll be in person and we'll testify and we'll write letters, So
I think the first rhetorical challenge with this issue is to say what the fellow YouTuber Jen Perelman from Florida has been saying, who's Jewish as well. She says Zionism is not Judaism and Judaism is not Zionism. Zionism is a political choice now. And the big thing, talking about the superficial analytics that conservatives use, they don't distinguish, and a lot of people on the liberal left or whatever also do this too, and it's very superficial cognition, right? They don't distinguish between a nation's people and a nation's government, right? And I think we've talked about this. Iran, amazing people, horrible government, right? Or Israel. I used to think it was a great people, but now I don't know. They're pretty complicit.
They've had, a lot of protests recently near the border of Gaza. They're very brave, those Israelis.
Yeah, I would say so.
The protest movement is growing there. So yes, there's hope.
Good.
Though, we do know that a lot of people support what Israel
No,
is
but that was
portraying.
what the video that you just showed me was beautifully crafted. The girl's cute and the animation's really good. Plays off of like a lot of pop culture stuff. I mean, it's manipulative. It's propaganda.
It's propaganda.
Propaganda.
Yeah, it's excellent propaganda.
They learn from the best, I suppose.
Right. But earlier you were talking about how people used to take their dates to watch
lynchings. Yeah.
Well, Matthew Ho, who is a veteran, he went to Israel recently, and he said that Israeli teachers were taking their students on field trips to an area overlooking Gaza to look through a telescope at the people suffering. And this was a field trip, right?
How long ago was this?
Not that long ago, maybe 6 months.
And they were
ago.
just taking a telescope to say, "Hey, check it out. This is our hard work. This is
yes.
This is a result of our work. We're proud of this."
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't want people to feel like there's nothing they can do. So maybe we can talk about some things they can do.
Absolutely. We would love to get some cliff notes on practical activism, we should call it, Marcy. I like that term.
Sure. Well, in terms of these bills, AB 715, the one that says we need an anti-Semitism coordinator and so forth, we need people to arrange for meetings with their state representatives to look at the bill, to contact me. I can help with those talking points. Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, at codepink.org. That's Marcy at codepink.org. To meet with their representatives and explain why it's so important that they vote against this legislation, both AB 715 and SB 472, the two bills that we talked about. Develop a relationship with your state representatives. If you don't, or if you are not part of an organization that you can represent, start one. I know that's not always easy, but all you need is a petition about something, get some signatures going, and start your own organization. You can also plug into Code Pink. And if we have a time, I would love to just show that website, codepink.org.
Yes. Codepink.org. Code.
And some of you may know that Code Pink has supported the Freedom Flotilla. That's a boat that sailed for Gaza. Greta Thunberg was on that boat, and they were to deliver medicine, fuel, medicine and food and water, I believe, to Gaza. They were abducted by the Israeli military in the middle of the night as they were sailing in international waters near Gaza. And so there is a global call for the Israeli government to release Greta and the others who were abducted. Here you see some of what's happening at Code Pink. We have a summer school series, principally about Gaza, but also about fascism, global fascism. And it's every other week, and you can learn more about it at codepink.org, resisting fascism. And if you click on that arrow, we can see what else is going on at Code Pink.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nuclear war is never an option. Demilitarize the Pacific. So we have a campaign. China is not our enemy. And this campaign is in response to what we see both under Democratic administrations and Republican, and that is this pivot to China or pivot to Asia, as Obama mentioned. We already have about 250 military bases surrounding China.
Right. Yes.
Right. And so, when Trump was campaigning, he said he was going to resolve the Ukraine-Russia war in 24 hours or something. Well, apparently that is not working out. But some of us believe that his desire to do that was principally to turn his attention to China. Right. And we don't want a war with China.
Right.
We want peace. So China is not our enemy. Demilitarize the Pacific. We don't want nuclear sharing. We have a lot of nuclear sharing. We share nuclear weapons with a number of countries. And we certainly don't want what we call the Sentinel. That's a new nuclear weapon or a new nuclear warhead. that will cost us anywhere from $1 trillion to $2 trillion. Northrop Grumman has the sole source contract on it and is subcontracting some of the work to Lockheed Martin and other military contractors. And they are going to test this unarmed Sentinel at Vandenberg on the central coast of California. What else? Yeah.
We got Lindsey Graham.
Oh, yeah, because Lindsey Graham has accused Code Pink of being what do we say? An expense item for China, that we are paid Chinese operatives, and that's just not true.
Who's your like leader? Is there a luminary that you guys spoke on?
We have two co-chairs, co-founders, Jody Evans and Medea Benjamin. And if you're on Instagram and you follow Code Pink, I'm sure you've seen Medea Benjamin. She's in the halls of Congress on Capitol Hill every day with about 20 to 30 others walking into offices, following members of Congress and asking them, how can you support this genocide? And here they are, Jody Evans and Medea Benjamin. They're legends.
Yeah, I recognize both of them.
And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see Ann Wright. She is a former colonel and a diplomat. She served in Afghanistan. She's 80 years old, and she is not slowing down.
Good for her.
So these are some of the advisory members.
That's great. Sounds like a great, Code Pink. I love it. I love it. I remember when we first met and going onto this website and being very impressed with your all's platform because it's nice and specific and intentional and unapologetic. That's my favorite part.
Unapologetic.
There's no reluctance here in what you're, and there's no lack of clarity. Or sorry, there's no it's just completely clear what you guys
We are for peace. We are for peace, you know?
Yes.
And if you
with no further, thank you, Marcy. You've been a great guest. Just want to thank you so much for everything.
Thank you
for the guests that you've been so far. But just in time before you go, and you can stick around for as long as you want. But I do have to bring in the co-host of the Left Coast Live, my favorite buddy from the Central Valley, Stat Pat Stateless Patriot. What's happening, my man?
Hello.
So you've been watching and listening to us on your ride home, right?
It's been a fantastic show, Marcy. You're wonderful. I've loved what you provided to the show. It's been great. You know, I've been in the chat as well as a few other members of the audience. It's been very informative. That's without a doubt. Yeah, I'm glad a lot of this information, most of which I already knew, is continuing to be relayed. We very much we like it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your audience about what really is not covered in corporate media, right?
Yeah,
so
not as much as it should be, honestly.
There should be a requirement. I mean, back in the old days with the Fairness Doctrine and before Bill Clinton's Telecom Act, there was a requirement for there to be diverse stories over the course of the day. Instead, they sliced the same 3 stories 50 different ways with, a new contributor from such and such a publication. It's like we're listening to the same viewpoint on the same issue that we did at Morning Joe. Now we're just in the afternoon, and it's what's her name on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow. Yeah. Oh, what happened, Rachel? What happened?
Right.
She got corporatized. She made it big. She made too much money, man.
I've heard that the political divide is amongst those who listen to and watch cable television and those who don't.
That really does.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's like if you watch like a lot of cable news and whatnot, especially Fox, is like you are literally like less informed than someone who doesn't follow politics at all.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, did you have something else, Marcy?
I was just going to say thank you so much. I have to run.
Sure.
But I look forward to a link to this so I can share it out.
Yes.
I appreciate. Yeah, we appreciate that very, very much.
I'll send you that link right now.
Okay. All right. Live on the West Coast. Good to be here.
All right. All right. Thank you, Marcy. Have a great day.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Hell yeah, yeah. Good show. I had it going the whole ride home. Needed to catch up with a couple points, but it's great guest, honestly. We should definitely have her
Yeah,
on
she's
again
very
sometime in the
informed
future.
and she's been active. I mean, she actually walks it, man. She does like
Big
all
time.
the stuff that we talk about doing, like she's actually done. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
like the real grassroots, like the stuff that
Show up to
nobody wants to do, man. And it just
yeah.
needs to get done. But they were, you probably didn't see it, but their website is really super impressive. It's like, I kind of want to be like, hey, do you need any men to go work for you? Like, you know,
Yeah.
you got to have
No,
that
for real.
token one guy hire, right? Like,
Sure. I mean, why not? Yeah. I mean, they've done great work. I've been familiar with Code Pink for years now,
yeah,
and I always knew them as like, a feminism beacon, and
yes.
of course, like we fucking need that shit. Like we absolutely
Yes.
need those messages and
Something
that.
more than just the Me Too movement, right? Something like an
Yeah.
actual access point for luminaries. And,
Right.
you know, the woman that they were showing, Jody Evans and Medea Benjamin,
Right.
sound like, you know, people that I'm excited to get to know more about. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're going to unite the left, we've got to get to know the major voices in specific ways.
No, of
And that's
course.
going to require us all to do a little bit more homework. But it's just cool because, like, to have an access point like Code Pink, like, okay, I want to know more about feminism, then boom, just go to Code Pink. Like,
Bingo.
that's the source, you know?
Bingo. Yeah.
So anyway, it was a really good show. How was your day, man? What
Oh
what do
God.
you want to talk about? The
Well,
fucking firestorm going on down in
yeah. It's
LA right now. I mean, Gavin Newsom starting his run for 2028.
Yeah, I liked your guys' coverage of that. I really do think, yeah, like you guys made great points about Gavin Newsom potentially getting arrested, and like it would really just play into,
Be the best thing
you
for
know,
him, dude. Be the
it
best thing that
really,
ever happened in his political career is to get arrested by Trump.
God, I almost feel like in a twisted sort of way that, he's like, because we've seen his pivot more rightward to try to appeal to like more conservative minded people. I wouldn't be surprised, like, if he's in cahoots with, maybe Trump himself
Mhm.
or, Republican figures to like take the reins, like a passing of the torch, because he's from California. He's aligned with a lot of the tech bros.
Yes.
He literally has not burner phones, but he has a direct line to basically like all the CEO, like major CEOs in California. Like he has a special
He's also
phone
flip
that he
flopped on a ton of
provided them.
issues, man. He's like Prince Gavin. Like, Californians don't even really like him. Like, if you
No,
go
yeah,
on to his Instagram and you scroll the comments on his Instagram, it's pretty much all negative. It's all
no,
like tearing him
yeah.
down. Like, resign, dude. Get the hell out of here. Like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
and a lot of it is just knee jerk reactionaries that are, from MAGA, which I mean, like, of course, there are countless reasons to dislike Gavin Newsom, but a lot of it really is just, blue team bad reactionary. But like he does deserve a hell of a lot of the hate. You mentioned that he went on Morning Joe, and I didn't get a chance to see that today.
He did?
I did.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did this morning. Do you want to see it?
Yeah. Today's
Okay,
been
hold on. Let me bring it up.
incredibly friggin' busy. It's been nuts. I haven't eaten. I didn't even get a chance to stop for lunch. I had a cheese Danish this morning, and that was it.
Oh, you poor
Yeah.
bastard.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
whatever.
gotta get some food after this. All right, let's do the Morning Joe clips, and then I'm gonna go get some dinner.
Okay, for
All
sure.
right, 17 hours ago.
There's a few things I wanted to touch on if you wanted to talk about them, but I did want to start with this
Angeles.
Morning Joe
And
thing for sure.
if and when that happens, I don't know that the public opinion, obviously, we'll have to wait and see.
About how there should be tougher law enforcement in California and these riots should have to.
There's not riots going
City,
on.
there are 50% if they got in between the ICE enforcement operations and the federal agents. And then last night in the Emergency Operations Center, I spent some time with Governor Newsom as he monitored the situation here. And I asked him about what Tom Homan had said about arresting him. I want to play a little bit more of that sound for you right now, Mika. Watch this.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people who are just trying to live their lives, man. trying to live their lives, paying their taxes, been here 10 years.
I'm so relatable.
The fear.
I'm pissed.
The horror.
I'm
The hell is
California
this guy?
pissed.
Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop.
Yeah.
And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
So tough stuff.
Yeah,
for
he
the
wants
governor
it.
of California, and kind of in between. This
Yeah, exactly. Make me the next president.
Yeah, no, that's I literally think that's probably the game plan. Is like they like literally a lot of the fucking tech bros, the bro oligarchy,
love
the
Newsom.
fucking, yeah, they would be like, okay, Newsom, a lot easier to control, a lot more aligned with us. You know, it's they would have
Holman
no
comes
issue,
on,
and that's
Holman
why he
comes
shouldn't
on
be.
this
Go ahead.
show. Yeah, Holman comes on here. I can't find it. Keep talking.
No, yeah, he already gets a lot of money from the fucking tech industry. He's done a whole lot of favors for them because you got Silicon Valley right there, you know.
All right, let's hear Chris Murphy really quick on these protests.
Okay, yeah, we like him.
All right, that brings us to our next conversation. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Thank you very much for coming on this morning, focusing on Los
Thank
Angeles
you all for joining.
and
Be
the
sure to be
Marines that are
subscribed.
standing by. What's your take on where this is headed?
Well, I think it's first important to point out that Donald Trump is just not telling the truth. There's been property damage, but these are pretty isolated protests. There's just no doubt that the local law enforcement can handle them. And, we've all listened to Donald Trump's affection for martial law. We've watched him try to destroy our democracy and the rule of law over the last 6 months. And so, of course, it's incredibly concerning to see him threatening a federal takeover here. This is the first time in 60 years that you've had a president deploy the National Guard without a request of the local governor. But it can also be true that everything that's happened in the last 7 days between the fight with Elon Musk and now the deployment of the National Guard is probably also a distraction from the main story, which is that right now Donald Trump is trying to pass probably the most unpopular piece of legislation that he will attempt to move through
Here's the
Congress
thing.
in his first term.
So here's the
He's
thing,
going to
right?
throw $15 million.
This is just a big distraction from a multitude of different things. Of course, the big beautiful bill and how fucking horrendous and unpopular it is one. The other one is the hundreds of there's a gigantic protest in Washington D.C. right now of veterans. Veterans are absolutely fucking pissed with what's going on right now. A lot of it has to do with the gutting of the VA and whatnot, and that's not getting any fucking coverage in DC in the media right now. That's happening in DC. Another thing it's distracting from is the drama between Musk and Trump in the recent days, and the bombs that Elon Musk dropped. Hey, we're never going to see the Epstein files. Trump's in them.
Right.
Trump killed Epstein.
Maybe.
Yeah. I believe 100% he was at least very much involved with that. But yeah, this is all just a big distraction.
Their health care in order to fund a massive tax cut for the wealthy. It's going to add $2 trillion to our deficit. We're probably going to head into a recession. And so I do also think he's probably doing everything he can to try to get the entire political world to be talking about anything other than a piece of legislation that's going to fundamentally change this country. So, we have to point out the danger of what he's proposing to do in Los Angeles while also keeping our eye on the ball, which is a bill that's going to transform our economy and ruin a lot of lives.
Many things can be true at the same time. Having said that, people are very upset about these ICE raids in Los Angeles for these poor, terrified families. The initial promise was that these deportations would be for criminals only. That's clearly not what's happening here as they're trying to make certain numbers. What's your message to protesters? And also, what can elected officials do at this point? And your take on how Gavin Newsom is doing?
Well, I mean, my first message is to keep it peaceful. I mean, obviously, this is a moment where we have to be on the streets all over the country to protest what's happening to our immigrant community, but more broadly to protest what's happening to our democracy. This is the most corrupt administration in the history of the country, and we are going to rise to this moment by being out there on the streets. You know, ultimately, I think the country sees what Donald Trump is trying to do here. He's looking for a fight. There's nothing in what he is doing that is about peace or about restoring order. He's taking a protest that is relatively isolated. You know, people in Los Angeles over the weekend would tell you that 99% of them went about their day, and it was pretty normal because this is not an invasion that has taken over the entire city. And he's trying to turn a protest that is pretty small into something that involves an even bigger confrontation so that he might actually be able to invoke the Insurrection Act.
And that's the biggest thing here. So, like, Karen Bass actually came out and basically said exactly this. Like, you know, for one, the LAPD should be protecting the citizens. You know, like ICE are the agitators here, and Trump wants to provoke. He wants this to escalate because he wants it. I mean, who knows what the actual fuck Trump wants? This is all Stephen Miller. He's been melting down because he has the shortest fucking temper, you know, probably as short as something else he has, and he's going off about like fucking we should be like outside the Home Depots and shit, and just rounding people up, and it's just
he's a fascist. This is fascism.
Yeah, because
this is white trash fascism.
Exactly, people are challenging him on like, well, I mean, we're not. There aren't enough people with criminal records that we're going after and shit. And he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't want to go after people with criminal records. He just wants to fucking literally, like, he can't get off unless he's watching a brown mother crying in Spanish as she's being pried away from her children by masked up thugs who maybe they aren't even fucking part of ICE. We can't identify them, even though they're fucking public servants. Fucking servants, you know, like, so these could just be jackboot thugs in ICE uniforms, and like we wouldn't even fucking know.
A medical facility to arrest.
So this is Holman.
ICE Secretary Newsom ended the sensitive location policy that ICE had.
As you've just firing back.
Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. They're trying to incite violence. They're trying to impose the kind of rhetoric that only makes the conditions worse, that quite literally put people's lives at risk.
NBC's Liz Kreutz with that report. And joining us now, border czar for the Trump administration, Tom Homan. Mr. Homan, thank you for joining us this morning. We have now seen 3 days worth of wide-scale immigration enforcement in L.A. County in the Fashion District, at the Home Depot there. When your appointment was announced, you said that ICE, your agency, would focus on national security threats and public safety threats. Were there public safety threats in the Fashion District and at that Home Depot in these raids we've seen?
Yeah, and that's what no one's talking about. The Fashion District wasn't an immigration raid. It was a service of 3 criminal warrants at locations based on a large criminal conspiracy that ICE have been investigating. That has to do with money laundering, tax evasion, and customs fraud, where a company underdeclared over $80 million in goods, failed to pay $17 million in fees, and it's part of an overall conspiracy on numerous businesses that they believe that some of this money is being laundered in Mexico and Colombia.
How the fuck is this mealy-mouthed fucking old codger piece of garbage in charge of anything, dude? Like, what the fuck? Like you just spewing fucking nonsense. Can't even understand what the fuck you're saying. He's just fucking lying through all this shit. It's just like he gets off on it, dude.
The fine cartel activity. So this was a criminal investigation that they all responded to in the beginning. That's how it all started.
Elmer Fudd.
But the facts never got out. Even though we put the facts out, the media didn't cover it. They just said immigration raids, we're separating families and all the negative information we hear all the time. We took a lot of bad people off the street last couple of days. A Vietnamese national that attended a graduation party was kicked out and came back and killed 2 young people, two young Americans. We arrested a child predator. We arrested someone for sexual misconduct. Someone arrested for committed armed robbery. We arrested
So riddle me this.
The last couple of days is make Los Angeles safer.
So riddle me this, Tom. What is the purpose of sending in the National Guard or the fucking Marines? Because for one, they can't perform arrests. They cannot conduct arrests of U.S. citizens. That's not what they're fucking. That's not within their power. So
yeah, the question is why escalate it? Why escalate?
Yeah. It's like these people are trying to fucking protect their community. These
just to make a point, man.
Yeah,
they want to make a point. They want to take it out on the protesters. Anybody who's not MAGA, they want to hurt.
Yeah,
it's either you're with MAGA and Trump, or you're not an American. That's how they feel.
Yeah, when Trump was first elected, like the day after, like I made a bet with someone online, like, hey, I think Trump will at some point during his term deploy the military on U.S. citizens. Lo and fucking behold, we got two branches fucking about to occupy portions of L.A.
Public safety threats off the street.
Is everyone that has been arrested by ICE agents have a criminal record like those you've described?
Absolutely not. And I said from day one, January 20th, we will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. However, we will enforce law. I may prioritize my family life over my work. It doesn't mean I ignore my work. We're going to force the immigration law. We've been honest about that from day one, especially in sanctuary cities. Well, we can't get the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. They release him to the street. Well, we got to go to the street and find them. And when we find them, many times they're with others. Others that are in the United States illegally may not be a criminal target.
Going after the bad guys, mothers going to pick up their fucking children from school, and then all of a sudden she's abducted, never fucking seen again. Don't know where she went. Yeah, that's fucking such a tough fucking man. Tough on fucking crime. You fucking Elmer Fudd looking old fucker. Jesus fuck.
Aliens are there. We're going to arrest them. That's what sanctuary cities get. They put us in the neighborhood. They force us in the neighborhood. This is what happens.
Well, that sort of action there you're describing has met with a lot of pushback from local officials, the mayor of Los Angeles, and the governor, who's also very critical of the National Guard being deployed, suggesting that's provoking some of these clashes. It's sort of it is a rarely used maneuver by the president of the United States to deploy National Guard members
LAPD
this
ran somebody
over the
over
objections
too
of the governor to the city streets. So, Mr. Holman, were you part of the decision-making process to deploy the National Guard? What is your response to those in that state who say they're only making the situation worse?
Then they should have taken action the last 2 days while the city burned. I mean, he waited over 2 days for all this violence to say he had an unlawful.
It wouldn't have fucking started if the ICE raids didn't even fucking take place.
But it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that though. Like it wasn't. The city wasn't burning down. They were relatively peaceful protests. They were, destroying property, but no one was getting hurt.
What the fuck are you talking about? And then Trump comes out on fucking Truth Social and is like, I want to thank the National Guard for their efforts in the LA and the fucking National Guard hadn't even reached the goddamn city yet. It's like it's just all a fucking show.
For surrounding the federal building, breaching that federal building, putting our officers at risk, putting the illegal aliens to be arrested and are in custody at risk. It was out of control. So I support President Trump's decision on deploying the National Guard. They're there to protect property and life, not just of law enforcement.
No, the fuck they're not. They are there to protect the ICE agents so they can continue conducting their raids on innocent people.
We're there. We're going to do everything we can to protect our buildings, protect our officers. And so calling out the National Guard, I think is the right thing to do. I was on the ground. Governor Newsom wasn't. I've seen this for the first couple of days. He didn't. So I think President Trump made the right decision to appoint the National Guard to protect life and property. That's exactly what they're doing. And these people that are they can call them protesters. Many are peaceful protesters. Many are not. Many are criminals. We had an incident where someone threw a Molotov cocktail at a law enforcement officer. Now, we've just seen recently what a Molotov cocktail can do. So when I said I've been attacked for a comment a couple of days ago, the rhetoric keeps continuing, the violence keeps continuing. It's a matter of time before someone loses their life. So using a Molotov cocktail law.
Who are they throwing at, though? Who these were peaceful protests until law enforcement got involved, until ICE conducted their, like, these were people, these were neighbors coming together saying, hey, these are our fucking neighbors. You don't fucking belong here. Get the fuck out of here. These are not criminals. These are people that we see every single fucking day. Like, it's that fucking simple. But they, like, it's literally like state sanctioned escalation. It's government sanctioned fucking abductions, and like the people are fucking sick and tired of it. God damn it, dude.
Can certainly be met with deadly force. The rhetoric has to stop. People have to stop calling ICE terrorists and criminals and racists, because they're enforcing the laws enacted by Congress, signed by a president. And that's exactly what ICE is doing. They're enforcing the law. They're not making this up. They're trying to make everyone safer, one illegal criminal.
Oh yeah, it's so much safer with fucking ICE around. Yeah, I'm sure these communities feel super safe. You know, fucking Karen Bass and whatever the fuck, the police chief, the LA fucking police chief is saying this is because of ICE. All this shit that's happening is because of ICE. They are disturbing these communities that we have worked so hard to normalize relationships with. You know, fucking like actually work together with communities. You know, that's what the police should be fucking doing. Not cracking down on shit, like sowing chaos and disarray and distrust and shit. And now with fucking the federales, the Gestapo, Trump's ICE going in there, it fucking dissolves all that shit, because it's like it's a fucking bunch of unaccountable thugs who are masked up that are taking their authority from the fucking government, and the LAPD is just like, well, fuck, like what are we supposed to do about this? You know, and like that's why the fucking mayor, even the goddamn police chief, is so frustrated with this shit, and it's all because of fucking Trump. It's all because Stephen Miller can't fucking orgasm without watching fucking brown folks being rounded up and black bagged and taken to who knows fucking where.
Yeah, he's a Nazi.
Yeah. Governor Mayor, also the commissioner of the LAPD, says that the vast majority of protesters there have been peaceful. Mr. Holman, I want to talk about a new tactic here from ICE in recent weeks, it seems. Some arrests made at immigration courts, also at schools across the country. We've seen Michigan, Massachusetts, a couple in New York City. Are those students, many of the, teenagers for the most, are they public safety threats? Why are they now being targeted at places where used to be children were felt safe? What do you say to parents who now say they're afraid to send their kids to school?
Well, it's ridiculous. Against a false narrative being pushed by the media. ICE Secretary Newsom ended the sensitive location policy that ICE had. Only federal law enforcement agency had such a policy. That law enforcement couldn't enter a college campus, couldn't enter a medical facility to arrest a public safety threat. And you can't point at one instance where ICE has raided a school. And I see the stories: raided an elementary school, never happened. Raided churches, doesn't happen. Raided a hospital, doesn't happen.
They're fucking conducting arrests outside hospitals.
No, they do it. So he says. So what they do is they wait for them to come out of the building.
Yeah, it's like
and then
fucking,
once they're out of the building,
we're not actually raiding.
We're not
these
raiding anything. Yeah, we're not raiding anything.
Fucking,
we're just waiting for you to come out of that church. We're waiting for you to come out of that
dwelling
hospital.
Fucking thumb ass looking Neanderthal, dude. Fuck this piece of shit.
Sanctuary in this country for a significant public safety threat or national security threat. There's no sanctuary. Any other law enforcement agency can, for instance, let's say it's MS-13. He's a senior in high school, and he's a public safety threat. But we've been looking for him. Now we know he's actually attending class today at a certain time. We're going to work with local authorities to go arrest that public safety threat. It's not about raiding schools. It's about raiding hospitals. It's about, in a rare circumstance, we got to find a public safety threat, a national security threat, and they're in one of these facilities.
Oh yeah, like the fucking children that ICE is zip tying. Like the fucking children that are just being rounded up and deported to other countries who have fucking cancer. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Yeah, the big fucking threats, dude. Oh yeah, we need to enforce immigration law. Yeah, so what the fuck did children do, dude? God.
Public safety threats or national security threats. So it's not about raids. It's not about
threats to national security.
People should send their
big
kids
tough
to school.
Fucking man.
We're not raiding schools. It's just a ridiculous concept that the left's pushing that false narrative.
Some of these students, of course, not gang members, those who've been detained. Let me ask you this. You, of course, worked for the Obama administration, an administration that was very successful in securing the border, deporting a lot of people, even that Democrats were critical of the administration for doing so. But a lot of the tactics being used now by the Trump administration were not used then, when those numbers were higher than they are now. So why have things changed under President Trump? Is there indeed some sort of quota system?
They can get away with it now.
Miller or others?
Look, I did run enforcement and removal operations for Obama, and we removed and arrested a lot of people. We used a lot of the same tactics. Right now, because of the last 4 years of Joe Biden, we got over 10 million illegal aliens coming to this country illegally, and we got over 2 million known gotaways. 2 million people that crossed that border weren't vetted, weren't fingerprinted. We don't know who the hell they are. Well, how many of them came from countries sponsoring terror?
That's another dumb Nazi fucker, Christine
on the border in 4 years under Joe Biden. And in the Trump administration, first Trump administration, we had 14. So the situation is totally different. So we got a lot of dangerous people released in this country, and we've seen a case example by case example of illegal aliens released in this country with a Secretary Mayorkas saying they're properly vetted, and they weren't. Because when we found them, many of them had serious criminal histories in their homeland. So Secretary Mayorkas said these people were properly vetted. No, they weren't. We never had access to many countries' criminal databases. Many of the countries where these aliens come from don't have any criminal database at all. They don't have the systems we had. So it's a different ballgame right now.
What criminal record do children have that you're fucking rounding up, you piece of shit? What criminal record do the mothers that you're prying away from their fucking children have, dude? Like, what the fuck?
He's just a poster boy.
Yeah.
He's just the face.
But he's loving every fucking bit of this, dude.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah, he loves spewing the bullshit.
Administration, open borders. We know that public safety threats by the tens of thousands have been entering this country.
No, Stephen Miller is like watching this and giggling. He's like, "Look at Holman go."
National security threats made in this country, and again, 2 million people paid more to get away. They didn't pay less to an alien smuggler organization to get a free airline ticket to the city of their choice, a free hotel room, 3 meals a day, free medical care, and work authorization. 2 million people paid more not to get vetted, not to get fingerprinted. So it's a different ballgame. So we're taking this seriously, and ICE is not making this up. Everything we're doing, we're using laws established by Congress, enacted by Congress, and signed by the president. Even the Alien Enemies Act that a lot of people attacking, Congress passed that act. That's an act that's codified, and we're using every tool available.
And the judicial system just stopped that.
As many public safety threats and national security threats as
they
we
just
can.
put a pause on that, so you're full of shit.
Some of the critics of these moves say that these policies, those laws, Alien Enemies Act and the like, were not meant for this. One of his toughest critics right now is, of course, California Governor Newsom. We want to give you a chance to respond. Governor Newsom, in an interview with NBC News, said that he said, quote, just get it over with in terms of you arresting him. He says, quote, he's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do it? He knows where to find me. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go. That was the governor of California talking to you.
Well, look, I'm not biting on that. The NBC reported an interview.
Of course you're not, bud.
We did a 20-minute interview, and he cuts out a little clip that makes me and takes my words out of context. Here's what we said. And he talked about when I talked about these people that are these protests and rioting. When they cross the line, they got that. Well, here's why I said they have a right to protest. They have the First Amendment rights, but they can't cross that line. They can't cross that line of impediment. They can't cross that line of putting their hands on officers. They can't cross the line of knowing, concealing, and illegal aliens, because they're all federal crimes. They're in statute, and they will be prosecuted. When he asked the questions that include Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom, I was clear, they haven't crossed the line, but they're not above the law either. If they commit a crime, they certainly will ask for prosecution. That's what was happening. I never threatened to arrest Governor Newsom, so I'm not biting off on that. It's just that reporter is dishonest, and let him play the whole 20-minute interview, and you'll see a whole different discussion that we had.
All right, NBC News, of course, stands by the reporting. Border Czar, Tom Holman. Mr. Holman, we appreciate you joining us.
We still have no respect for you.
You got it. Thank you.
Right.
Up next.
Yeah, not us.
Tom Holman, Satan incarnate. All right, man. Are you going? Are you live on your channel?
No, yeah, I've been live since I joined you. Yeah, Thunderbird's Thunderbird's making fun of them. I'm not biting on that, you wasky wabbit. Fucking because he looks like fucking Elmer. Fucking Elmer
for
Fudd
sure.
shit. Yeah. You want to know
Yeah,
how the
dude, I mean,
fucking Democrats are like
yeah, how
acting
are they
right now?
responding? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, take no look no further than the DNC chair, and what he seems to be prioritizing recently. I would pull up a Politico article about the DNC chair and private meeting with David Hogg, and there's some audio in there that I think that we should listen to just to get a little bit of an idea of how the resistance is going, how the opposition to this fucking fascist hellscape is. If the law was black and white, we wouldn't need judges, which that Hill bill is not. Yeah, no kidding. Fucking wants to be judge, jury, and executioner. This whole goddamn fucking administration. Oh god, dude.
Is this what you were talking about?
Yes, it is.
And
All
we're
right.
all trying to it has plenty of warts, and we're all trying to change those for sure.
Ken Martin.
But the longer
DNC
we
chair.
continue this fight, the harder it is for us to actually do what we all want to do, which is make a difference in this country again. So I deeply respect you, David. I too was looking forward to working with you, but this has created a situation, and I'll be very honest with you, for the first time in my 100 days on this job, and Jessica knows this.
You know this is about, right?
Hold on.
The other night I said to myself for the first time, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And partly not because of the stress and all the naysayers, right? I'm used to that. I've spent 14 years as a chair. I'm used to getting beat up on. But this is really everything. From this election, this credentials report, and how Malcolm's been treated in this, to the fact the election itself, how Shasti and Gina were treated in this. I'm just quite frustrated to be in this position, because what you've done, whether you like it or not, or know it or not, David, is no one knows who the hell I am, right? I'm trying to get my sea legs underneath of me and actually develop any amount of credibility so I can go out there and raise the money and do the job I need to put ourselves in a position to win. And again, I don't think you intended this, but you essentially destroyed any chance I have to show the leadership that I need to. So it's really frustrating.
29 people. Thank you, guys. Make sure you're subscribed.
What a puss.
Gene.
Listen.
What? That was it.
That was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, I don't know if it played the whole thing, but he started fucking crying at one point.
Yeah, it was at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you work with PDFs at all,
shut up. This is the fucking resistance. This is who we've got fucking leading the party. This pathetic little fucking pussy. If I was fucking David Hogg, having to sit there and listen to Ken Martin,
because guess what?
I'd be like, dude, you need to resign. You're clearly not cut out for this. This isn't for you. Fucking, like, I am experiencing.
Sure, there's a tool for every job.
What the hell? I'm experiencing secondhand embarrassment having to endure this shit from you. You're whining like a little fucking bitch. You should not be in charge of anything. If this is how you conduct yourself as a grown adult leading an entire political
really
party. Yeah, listen.
Gene.
Like he's fucking getting all emotional over this shit. It's just like,
I am
dude,
tough.
All because
guess what?
All because David Hogg is like, hey, maybe we should go after the Democrats who aren't actually putting up a fight against Trump. Maybe we should fucking actually have people who are part of the party who are progressive and not kowtowing to these fucking fascists. Hello, Trump boss, and hello, Adam Rodriguez. Fucking, I don't care if you are here illegally or not. If you're here in America, you're American as far as there's like the people who are here illegally are fucking far more American than you fucking Trump dumbasses. But yeah, no, like that's Ken Martin. Like, this is the guy who the fucking Democrats like tried to push in. They didn't want any fucking progressive leaders, and of course he's fucking going after like one guy who has some like fucking name recognition and shit. It's like, give me a fucking break, dude.
So I just wanted to make your audience aware that I'm going to be so we're having guests this week as well. We're having a sociologist, Professor Dick Flax from UCSB on Wednesday night, and then next Monday we've got a feminist who understands the male loneliness epidemic really well.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And then we've got Connor, the American progressive, a week from
Oh
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's
But
been a while since we chatted with him. Yeah,
I am taking part in a new channel called This Space.
Hey, Trump Bus.
And
sorry,
can you hear me?
hold on. Hold on. Hey, Trump Bus. The cartels were set up by the AI so that we have slavery on tap, just slave labor. You know, the cartels are controlled opposition. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You want to fucking deal a blow to the cartels? Legalize drugs, but it's never going to happen because the cartels were created by the CIA. Get a fucking clue. Both parties suck. The Democrats suck. The Republicans suck. No one's looking out for you. Trump is not going to fucking save you. Grow the fuck up. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to be participating in the new channel called This Space TV, which is a cohort of a lot of recognizable lefty YouTubers. The Logical Leftist, Humanist Report, Letter Hack this is kind of his baby.
Oh shit, no way.
Yeah, it's really cool. So my time slot is Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I'm just going to be going live for an hour and basically trying to convince people to come to my channel and check out my essays, because I feel like if everybody just watched my goddamn essays, the national IQ points would jump at least 10.
I hope so.
Just so we can get conservative thought out of here, because I'm so pissed off. But it's good to have that female voice with Marcy come in here and kind of give us the details and how to, the real world knowledge on how to organize and make a difference, and not just on a, not just pounding your, megaphone, but actually
she was
getting the votes you need for stuff, and knows a specific legislature. How cool is that? Like, but that's disappointing from Ken Martin, man. I mean, I knew when they picked him, I was like, dude, this guy is a complete pussy. He's a complete company man. He's going to do what he's told. He's not a leader. He's not going to make the Democratic Party his. That's what we needed in a chair, is we needed someone to make it his.
Yeah.
And, that, or hers. And we didn't get that.
For MTDYL, legalists ain't looking out for anybody but themselves. They're looking out for their families. They're just like you and me. They are literally just like you have family. You care for their well-being, right? So that's exactly what they're doing. Like the media narratives that you've been fed about like illegals and shit is all bullshit designed to scare you. You're scared because they're different, because they're not like you. But they are. Like, you have more in common with a working class Mexican than you do with anybody who has like fucking a 6-7 figure income.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call it a night, but you should
stay. Dude.
You should keep going if you want. I just sent you a link to the Spaces page. If you could put it in your chat so your people know about it, that would be great. But thanks for jumping on. I'm glad we could get at least at about an hour and before you had to go. But to Stat Pat's audience, thank you for indulging me, and please don't forget to subscribe to me, because I could really use the help. And until next time, don't forget that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
Yep. I'll see you Wednesday.
Thanks very much,
dude.
guys. All right, take care, Stat Pat.
For sure. All right.